Which is better, the LG K51 or the iPhone SE 2020? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, coming at you with my comparison between the LG K51 and the iPhone SE 2020. Now, the LG K51 is a very new device. You can currently get this from a variety of different carriers, including Boost Mobile and Metro by T-Mobile. It will probably also make its way over to even more carriers and most likely be available factory unlocked as well. And the iPhone SE, of course, is also offered at a bunch of different carriers, and this phone is currently available unlocked. So the retail price for the LG K51 is $149.99, whereas the retail price for the iPhone SE is $399. And of course, if you do want to get the best deals on these phones, then take a look at the link in the video description, but also make sure to get in touch with your carrier, as I know that the various carriers are always running tons of different promotions, so there's all kinds of different ways that you can save money. Now with the LG K51, we're getting a 6.5-inch display compared to a very tiny 4.7-inch display with the iPhone SE. In fact, you can see when putting the bottoms of the two displays at the same level, the K51 is dramatically bigger, that's for sure. I mean, you can pretty much fit an iPhone SE in the display itself of the K51. Now with the LG K51, we're getting a brand new design compared to a very old school design with the SE that has been around for pretty much like half a decade at least. Now both phones feature LCD displays. With the K51, we're getting a 720p display, and the resolution of the iPhone SE is a little bit over 720p. Now we're getting a PPI of 293 with the LG K51, and with the iPhone SE, we're getting a PPI of 326. Now with the K51, we're getting an aspect ratio of 19.5:9 compared to a 16:9 aspect ratio with the SE. So kind of a more narrow but tall form factor with the K51 compared to more of a traditional form factor with the SE. Now with the LG K51, we are getting a water drop at the top for the front-facing camera. We're also getting a little bit of a thicker bottom bezel, but none of that compares to the SE, which has very thick bezels on the top and bottom. Now with the K51, we're getting a 13 megapixel front-facing camera compared to a 7 megapixel front-facing camera with the SE. Now with the K51, we're getting 32 gigabytes of internal storage, but you can expand that with a microSD card. And with the SE, we're getting double that at 64 gigs. Now, unfortunately, the iPhone SE does not offer any sort of microSD card expansion, so you are stuck with what they provide. Now, there's no wireless charging with the K51, but we are getting wireless charging with the SE. Now, both phones feature fingerprint sensors, but they've been implemented very differently. So with the LG K51, the fingerprint sensor is on the back of the phone. We'll give that a try right now. And that's very fast. Now with the SE, the fingerprint sensor is built into the home button, so we'll give that a try right now. And that's extremely fast, definitely quicker than what we're getting with the K51. Now there are some very major differences with the cameras on these devices. So with the K51, we're getting a triple camera setup. So we're getting a 13 megapixel main camera. We're getting a 5 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, which can take photos at 115 degrees. And we're getting a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. And with the SE, we're just getting one camera here, and it is 12 megapixels, but it does also do portrait mode, so both phones do have that ability. Also, with the front cameras in both devices, we are getting portrait mode too. Now, in case you're not familiar with the advantages of an ultra-wide-angle camera, let me show you right here. So here is the standard camera with both phones, and then now I'm going to switch to the ultra-wide-angle camera, and you can see how much more content fits into the frame here. Now, without a doubt, the ultra-wide camera with the K51 is not nearly as good as the main camera, especially when it comes to low light photography, but it is very nice to have the ability to take some ultra wide photos. Maybe you're on vacation and you want to take some pictures of buildings or scenery, or maybe you want to take a photo of a large group of people. Those are situations where the ultra-wide-angle camera definitely does come in handy. Now, the front-facing cameras are very nice, though, with both phones. And then when it comes to the main cameras on both devices, I do have to mention that, of course, you are getting a better camera with the SE, that's for sure, because it is the same camera that we get with the iPhone 11, but the compromise with that is that we're not getting an ultra-wide camera. Now, both phones feature 3 gigabytes of RAM and they do have different processors, of course. With the LG K51, we're getting the MediaTek Helio P22 compared to the SE, where we're getting Apple's A13 Bionic. So the A13 Bionic is one of the best and newest processors from Apple, so that is one of the biggest selling points with this phone, is that they've taken kind of a more old school design, but they've given it the latest and greatest camera and processing technology. And I talked about this in my Stylo 6 versus iPhone SE video, which you should definitely check out, but I almost feel like Apple gave this phone too much power in the sense that we don't really have adequate hardware here to really take advantage of the processor. And what I mean by that is that, for example, we're getting a tiny battery with this phone, which we'll talk about in a second, but we're also getting a very tiny display. So you are pretty limited realistically with the things that you can do with this phone because you're gonna have to squint your eyes the entire time. Whereas with the K51, sure, we are getting weaker performance, but at least we have a nice large display to view your social media content, to view videos, to do all that stuff. So I definitely see a lot of value in the hardware design of the K51. Now, video recording with the LG K51 maxes out at 1080p, whereas with the iPhone SE, we do get 4K video at 60 FPS with the rear camera, and we get 1080p video at 30 FPS with the front camera. Now, as far as the battery capacity goes, with the LG K51, we're getting a beefy 4,000 milliamp hour internal battery compared to a very tiny 1,821 milliamp hour battery with the iPhone SE. And as far as software goes, we're getting Android 9 Pie with the LG K51. I have no idea if, when, or ever the phone will get updated to Android 10, but it probably wouldn't be anytime soon. And the iPhone SE does give us iOS 13, which is the latest version of iOS. Now, I know that many of the people that are pro iPhone SE will tell you that this phone will continue to get updates for many, many, many years into the future, and that is completely true. However, in my opinion, I feel like with how tiny the display is on here and how small the battery is, I think you're going to get tired of the SE after about a year or two anyway. So does it really matter that you're going to get software updates far beyond the amount of time that you'd even have this phone anyway? I know that a lot of people also tend to get bored of their phone after a year or two and typically want to upgrade to something fresher and newer. So if you are one of those people, then do the updates really matter that much? I'm really curious to know what you think in the comment section below. And really though, the battery issue is a big thing to consider. Of course, both of these phones are going to have batteries that degrade over time. But every iPhone that I've had gives you great battery life at the beginning, and after about a year to a year and a half, the battery life becomes pretty bad. That's the situation that I'm dealing with right now with my iPhone XS Max. So I can only imagine that that issue would be even worse with the SE, since we're already getting a really tiny battery from the get-go. Now, there is no NFC with the LG K51, and we are getting NFC with the iPhone SE, but of course, NFC is limited to Apple's various approved services, such as Apple Pay. Now with the LG K51, there's no waterproofing, no water resistance, no dust resistance, but with the iPhone SE, we're getting IP67, dust and water resistance with the phone. Now taking a closer look at the hardware, I already talked a lot about the front panels here. You are getting the water drop notch with the LG K51 and the thicker bottom bezel. But with the iPhone SE, this phone has some of the thickest bezels of any phone that I've checked out this year. I mean, you can see the bezels are completely massive with this phone. So that is something that you will have to put up with when you get the device. Now taking a look at the left side of the two phones with the LG K51, we're getting the volume up and volume down button, and we're getting the Google Assistant button. And with the iPhone SE, we're getting the mute switch, and we're getting the volume up and volume down buttons. Now with the LG K51, we have an all plastic build, of course minus the display, but with the iPhone SE, we are getting a metal band around the sides of the phone and glass on the back. So the phone does feature a nice premium build. Then taking a look at the right side of the two devices, with the LG K51, we have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card, and we have the power button. And with the iPhone SE, we have the power button and the slot for the SIM card. Then on the top of the two phones, on the LG K51, we have just the noise-canceling microphone, and we have nothing with the iPhone SE. Then taking a look at the bottom of the two phones, with the LG K51, we're getting the speaker, USB-C port, we're getting the microphone, and the 3.5mm headphone jack. Whereas with the iPhone SE, we just have the lightning port, we have the microphone, and we have the speaker. So there is no 3.5mm headphone jack with the iPhone SE. Then on the back of the two phones, we of course have the triple camera setup with the LG K51. We also have the fingerprint sensor, and we have the LG logo. Whereas with the iPhone SE, we have the camera module, microphone, flash, and Apple logo. I will say though, I really like the look of the iPhone SE on the back. I like how minimalist everything looks, and I think it looks very sharp in general. It also doesn't really pick up too many fingerprints, at least in this color. Whereas with the LG K51, I don't think it looks ugly on the back, that's for sure. But it definitely does pick up a lot of fingerprints. That is very obvious. Let's now do a speed test comparison between these two devices. We're going to start by pulling up the cameras on both phones. And by the way, I have already cleared out all of the recent apps, so don't worry about that. But 1, 2, 3, go. And it looks like the LG K51 was a little bit quicker, actually. Let's now go to Google Chrome on both phones. So 1, 2, 3, go. And definitely way faster with pulling up Chrome with the iPhone SE. Let's now go to yahoo.com. 1, 2, 3, go. And way faster with the iPhone SE in comparison. Let's go to Engadget. 1, 2, 3, go. And it looks like the SE is quicker at pulling up Engadget in comparison to the LG K51. Scrolling is nice and smooth on both phones, definitely smoother though on the SE. And you can see with the SE, it's able to load up pretty much the entire web page here with no issues, whereas things are definitely a bit slower with loading with the K51. But you do get what you pay for, that's for sure. Let's now go to this article. 1, 2, 3, go. And also quicker to load up here with the iPhone SE. You can also see that the LCD display with the SE does have better viewing angles in comparison to the K51. Now straight on, the K51 doesn't have too bad of a looking display, but definitely, at different angles like this, for example, things are a bit darker and less clear. But this is a really eye-opening thing right here. You can see how much more content is able to show up here in just one frame with the LG K51 compared to the iPhone SE. So with the SE, you can't see too far beyond the name of the author. Whereas with the K51, you can see several lines into the actual article itself. And then once you actually scroll into the article, you can see how much more you can see here, and in addition to that, things are bigger. So there are many advantages to having a larger display like we're getting with the LG K51, especially nowadays when content consumption on mobile devices is at an all-time high. People really spend more time on their phones than their computers consuming content. So in conclusion, which of these two devices is the better choice? Well, definitely when it comes to operating systems, I know that people either really like iOS or they really like Android, but maybe they don't necessarily like the other. So nowadays, people kind of know which ecosystem and which operating system is the one for them. So let's not consider the software. But as far as the hardware goes and what we're getting here, there's definitely pros and cons with both phones. I feel like the LG K51 maybe doesn't have quite as premium of a build, but in general, the hardware is more capable here in the sense that we are getting a large display and we are getting an ultra-wide-angle camera. But those are really the only benefits with this device. Whereas with the iPhone SE, we're getting a very fast processor, we're getting some other abilities such as 4K video recording, NFC, IP67 rating, twice the amount of internal storage, better cameras. Then you have the compromise of getting a phone that literally has been the same for like 5 or 6 years. So like I mentioned, I feel like if you buy an SE, you'll have two things that really will start to bother you over time. The first thing is that the battery aging will definitely expedite with the SE since it is very small. As the battery degrades over time, just like it would with any device, that will definitely be more obvious than ever with the SE. And then also I think in general, people are going to get pretty tired of having a tiny display with the SE after having it for a little while. But maybe not. Maybe you like a small display. If you're one of those people, then here you go. There's the SE. Go for it. Have fun. But I'm really curious to know what you think. Of course, another thing too is that with the K51, you're going to be saving a ton of money. That's another benefit of going the route of the K51. So yeah, I'm definitely curious to know what you think about these two phones, which one you prefer. And of course, take a look at the links in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing for the two devices. But this is Kevin here. This is the LG K51 versus the iPhone SE 2020. Give the video a thumbs up, sub to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.